Hello and welcome to Founders Treasure, the podcast where I share unique and inspiring stories that empower you to build your business. Today's guest is Karla Fraser, a founder and CEO of Roseapple Global, which includes the Career Expat, Higher Education Consulting, and Rest, Reset, Realign. What really stands out about Karla is her passion for helping people create meaningful international careers and lives abroad. After building her own global career across 7 countries and spending more than 20 years in higher education leadership, she turned her experience into a business that helps others navigate career transition and pursue opportunities around the world. Through her work, Karla shows that international career doesn't happen by chance but are built through planning, preparation, and taking action. So, if you want to level up your business skills, you are at the right place. With that introduction, let's talk to our guest, Karla. Karla, welcome to Founders Treasure. How are you today?
Hi, Nidhi. I am doing well, and it's a pleasure to be here and having this conversation with you.
I'm so happy that you are here with us today and ready to share your story with us.
Awesome.
So, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? What were your hobbies and interests growing up?
So my childhood is kind of one of that of a third culture kid. I grew up between two countries, Jamaica and the United States. And as a child growing up in Jamaica, I wouldn't say this was a hobby, but it was a favorite thing to do was climb trees and pick the fruit of those trees. And that was like my afternoon snack from after school.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say my grandmother would tell me often, "Get out of the tree! You're a young girl. You shouldn't be climbing trees." But that's and then another part of my childhood is I spent my teenage years growing up in the U.S. outside of Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and so those are kind of the two different lives that I lived growing up as a child.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Climbing trees, eating fruits. Wow, that's so amazing. And growing up in US, that brings another dimension to your personality and, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Good to know. So, were you adventurous and curious about the world since you were a child?
I was, and I think it all started because I got on a plane when I was a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
When you start flying as a child, an unaccompanied minor between the U.S. and a Caribbean island, I think you get a little sense of adventure in there. You're like you're on this plane, you're going somewhere, you're seeing the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Mm-hmm.
so while I think that created the dream of continuing and seeing the rest of the world.
Wow, wow. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Carla, can you tell us a little bit about your educational background and your career journey?
Wow. That's a long story. Do we sure we have time for other things on
Yeah.
that? So educationally, I spent childhood growing up in primary school or elementary school, as we call it in the U.S., in
Mhm.
Jamaica, and then high school in the U.S. Went to school in North Dakota,
Okay.
so the cold, right along the Canadian border, and got my bachelor's degree in history and political science.
Mhm.
So that also ties into the fact why I'm abroad, and then got a master's degree in international affairs. So again, international relations. So I think you can see a theme
Yeah.
drawing
Yeah.
conclusion here that this international thing started as a child and only continued
Yes.
into my education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was kind of how my education went. I loved geography. I loved learning about the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in a former British colony, to
Mm-hmm.
use that word loosely, I learned about other places that
Mm-hmm.
were within the colony structure or the Commonwealth as it's now known today.
Mm-hmm.
So again, those things really helped my education and my background and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to see the rest of the world.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. You got curious, learning about, flying in plane gives you a different point of view, going to different land, learning about, the world is so big, people are different. So that gives you a different dimension. And then your studies help you learn about, world affair, geography, history, politics, so many things. So
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me, yeah, so tell me what first sparked your interest in living and working abroad?
I think it was really while I was traveling as a teenager. So I spent time between Jamaica, the US, and Canada. And then when I went to my master's program, in my master's program, we had so many people from around the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so just listening to them and hearing about their countries, I was like, oh, could
Mm-hmm.
I go work there? Is that possible? And then because our program was really geared in history, politics, international development, and all those
Mm-hmm.
things, it was likely that we would end up, many of us in our program would end up working in places or at organizations, I would say, that were like the UN or the World Food Organization or the embassies or things of working for the government in foreign affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So that really kind of spurred
Mm-hmm.
um, that interest in going to work abroad. But I took a different route. I went and worked in higher education instead of going and working in my field.
Mm-hmm.
So I started this whole working as a graduate assistant in student housing or residence life,
Mm-hmm.
and then continued that. But I never gave up this, that bug that you have, or that how do you say it? That feeling of I need to travel.
Uh-huh.
And so I started traveling.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of the travels, then I was like, oh, I could work abroad. And so it really came down to 2006, 2007. And I was like, could I really apply for jobs abroad and would they really hire me?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started just randomly,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases, applying for positions that did fit what I did. I was working in student housing. So in
Mm-hmm.
2007, I applied for a position here in UAE, where I currently am,
Mm-hmm.
and got a job here and moved to my first position in 2007 into the UAE.
Wow. Wow, wow. Some people just dream, and you dreamt about it, and you are living your dream. So what a wonderful thing.
Yes. It's,
Mm.
yeah, it's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you remember what it felt like when you took your first opportunity abroad? Were you excited? Were you nervous, or was it a mix of both?
Um, I think it was a mix of both. I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, because I've been traveling as a kid, I think the travel part of it nervous wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous about that. I think
Mm-hmm.
the pieces that made me nervous was at the time that I was moving here, we meaning the US, was in a conflict,
Mm-hmm.
not unlike the one we are currently in. Um, and so my friends and family are like, you're moving to the Middle East. There's
Mm-hmm.
a conflict
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, but I'm going to a safe country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I clearly remember doing the research on the UAE and learning about the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
And I clearly also remember the woman who became my supervisor and now my mentor
Mm-hmm.
and a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when she offered the job, I said, okay, I have some questions. And she's like, okay, great. I said, it's 3 pages long. She's like, okay, how about you email that to me? I did. I had 3 pages of questions for her about her experience, because she was also from the US, her
Okay.
experience living in the UAE and what should I expect and all of those things. And can I get connected to somebody else other than her to hear
Mm-hmm.
another different
Mm-hmm.
perspective?
Mm-hmm.
And she was so gracious and did all of that.
Uh-huh.
And some point, I just kept asking more and more questions, and I'm like, okay, I literally have to stop asking questions and just do this. It is what it is, and just do it. If it doesn't work, you can always go back home. You can always find a job back at home in the US. So fast forward, October 2027, I got on the plane and came to the UAE, where I am now, which is interesting because this is my second time living.
Okay. So I can clearly see how curious you were, with all those questions, and, questions about building your life there, finding people. That's
Yeah.
that's I can relate to you on that sense because I moved from India to US, and for me it was, as you said, just like for you, it was both a mixed bag, exciting and nerve-wracking. So I can totally relate, it can be challenging at times and it can be exciting, you're moving to a new place.
Definitely.
So tell me, what were some of the biggest lessons or challenges you experienced while living and working internationally?
Resilience is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Being able to just be patient, understand that things are different, being open to try different things, I think is so important. I do think that I was fortunate because I've lived between two countries and I was a third culture kid, but I can imagine someone who has not lived between two countries and have not traveled a lot, deciding to live abroad, and you're going to be away from your family, you're going to be away from favorite foods, you're going to be away from your traditional holidays, you're going to be away from so many things that to be the bedrock of what you grew up with. And so those can be challenges. You're used to, I just go to the local driver's license place and get my driver's license. Well, in other countries, that's not the way it works. When I came here to the UAE the first time, I had to take my driver's license, and I was privileged. This was the privilege of a US driver's license because they drive on the same side of the road. I had to go get it translated, officially translated, and then take it back to the driver's license place for them to review it. And then if they felt it was acceptable, then then it was okay. And then they would give me my driver's license because I had a US license. But someone who doesn't have a US license, who doesn't come from a country that drives on the same side, for example, they have to go through either taking the test, or they have to go through taking classes and a driving program before they even get their driver's license. And so some of those are the challenges that we face. My challenges were always trying to find spices that I like to cook. I love Middle Eastern food, and I did before, and I tried it. But I was like, yeah, your spices don't cook the way I like to cook, and I don't know how to do that at home. Language is a challenge. I do not speak Arabic, and still don't. I do the shway. I know just enough words. So, learning cultural context, I think, is a big one. Understanding dress codes in the Middle East was another one. And being here, or even though where I've lived, I've lived in Afghanistan, I've lived in Bangladesh, I've lived in Dominica in the Caribbean, I've lived in Singapore, I've lived in Niger, West Africa. So each one of those countries come with their own unique set of cultural norms, language. I don't know French, I don't know Mandarin, I don't know Bengali. So I think one of the things that really sits well is that you have to learn to navigate all of this and build in relationships with with your local colleagues and locals in general, and going out and meeting people, I think makes the experience and makes the challenges of being homesick or the challenges of not understanding the system become easier.
Wow. That's interesting to know, like how you adapted to new culture and new environment. Uh, being open-minded, meeting new people, trying new food, ready to at least learn few words here and there so that you can convey your message. So those are really good ways to adapt, I guess, living in a new country.
Yeah, they are. I'm sure you went through some of those as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Now you said it, so I was, when you were talking about your driving license, I remember when I came here, uh, in India, you can get a lot of public transportation. So I learned driving. I knew driving a little bit, and then it's on the different side. The driver seat is on the right side, and coming here, it was a big shocker. Like, what? Can you do that? And you're driving on the other side of the road, and your
The
head is
left side,
spinning.
yeah.
How can the traffic move on the other side? Crossing the road, taking a right turn, left turn. It's like, reinforcing yourself what to do and how to do. And so initially it's a big shocker, but as time goes by, things get normal and you keep moving.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So let's shift gear here and talk about building a business. So, Kalra, after gaining all those experiences around the world, you eventually decided to start your own business. Tell me what inspired you to start your business?
Um, Two things. One, my experience, but two, it started in Singapore where I was watching colleagues come in, and probably young adults, young colleagues come in, and they were a bit unprepared, or they were questioning, is this what happens? How does this work? And so I'd spend time talking to them because by this time I'd lived in 4 countries. And so they were coming in and they were settling in that respect. And then the other piece is that I started presenting at my student affairs conferences about living and working abroad and what my experience was. And so the audience would always ask me, okay, so it's great that you're telling us about your experience, but how do we do this? And so I would unofficially share, this is what I do, this is how I do it. Constantly with, over coffee at a conference meeting, or someone calling me up or sending me an email question. And then 2014-ish, I would say somewhere in there, a close friend of mine, she and I were, talking about this, and we were looking at Australia. And so she's like, oh, this job in Australia. I was like, yeah, we should do this. There's 2 positions. We both should do this. And so I literally, because I had done this before, I spent a lot more time coaching her through the process. And so she ended up going and lived in Australia for 2 years roughly. And then at the end of 2018, I was at a conference, a student affairs leadership conference for women in particular. And literally, I had a young woman who had talked to me. She was fascinated by what I had done, how I done it. She goes, so would you coach me, train me, teach me how to do this? And then I said, yeah. And she goes, I'll pay you. I said, sure. Yes, we can do this.
Yeah. There goes
I said, we can start this after the new year, because we were headed into December, and that's literally how the business started from a business perspective. I'd been doing it unofficially, helping others, but turning it into a monetizable business skills. Someone asked, I said yes, and then we would go from there.
Wow. So what I could gather from this wonderful story, like helping people and understanding there was a need, there was a gap between, people had no idea how can they move abroad, and you started helping them. And it's such a wonderful story that you turned that into a business, and now you're helping so many people make their life easy when and fearless when they move to different country. So that's
Yes.
that's that's very good. That's great. Okay, Kalra, tell me about for listener hearing about your work for the first time. Can you tell us what Rose Apple Global does?
Sure. So, Roseapple Global is really an umbrella for three core services. And they range from institution to individual to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the institution level, we do higher ed consultants. So we spend time working with institutions or organizations in higher education, helping them navigate the student experience. So enhancing the student experience systems wide, training, things of this nature. So we, traditional consulting, helping to improve services and operations on the ground at universities around the world. Or educational organizations. The next part is Rest, Reset, and Realign, which is really kind of my Etsy store that recently went through a refresh and a rebrand. And it's really about intentional living. It's about making sure that you have self-care and wellness, whether you're home or abroad. And so the Etsy store has really quick, simple tools that you can purchase and use. And then we're creating out experiences where you can a tool that will help you build an experience, like build your own self-retreat or things of that nature. And then the last piece that focuses on our conversation, which is the Career Expat, which is really set to help individuals who want to use their experience as their launch pad to move abroad, using your career to live, work, and have a life in another country. And so we spend time one-on-one giving you strategic guidance around that, where we really focus on key things to get you abroad: purpose, geography, portfolio, your job search, compensation, and then last part that many people often forget about is that transition, that culture shock piece. And so that we really have a model that we work with people on when they want to do their journey. So that's kind of the core of Roseapple Global. We help institutions, we help individuals, and we make sure that there's the life component is part of that. And so the international component is the thread through all of those, international living.
Wow. So you are helping institutes, individuals, and in life in general, like, weaving a thread through going on with the life and learning about transitions. That is the biggest part of moving to a new country.
Yes.
So I imagine many of your clients come to you because they are looking for new opportunities or major life changes. So what are some of the most common challenges people face when they want to live abroad or work abroad?
Okay. I think the biggest challenge is the purpose. What is your purpose for doing this? Why are you going abroad? What is the end result? And how does that translate to your career? People are like, well, I'm a nurse, I can't live abroad. Yes, you can. You just have to think about nursing differently when you move abroad. You may be a licensed nurse in the United States, but you're not a licensed nurse in Tanzania or Zimbabwe or Bangladesh. But can you be a nurse in those places? Yes, you can. Okay. How working with me will help you figure out how to translate those skills abroad, and do that work in ways that you didn't think you could. You have an expertise, and that expertise is needed globally. Nursing is something that everyone needs in every country, in every hospital, and every clinic. Yes. you may be a specialist nurse and you
Mm-hmm.
could go and train other nurses and be a
Ah.
consultant nurse instead of being a nurse in that doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about taking that skill that you have, taking that expertise and that experience, translating it, working with me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the biggest challenge. It's what's your purpose and figuring out how to translate what you currently do abroad. Some things are easy.
Okay.
And some things are you have to think about it differently because there may be some licenses or regulations, but there's ways to do that.
Okay. So let's dig little deeper into this. If someone living in US, a nurse living in US, a licensed nurse, and she wants to settle down in UAE, let's talk about it. So can you just briefly tell, what do they have to do and how to go about it?
So, for example, here in the UAE, nurses can be hired from around the world. Half of our
Wow.
nursing staff
Wow.
at the clinics and doctors I go to, many of our nurses are from South Asia. So many of them are Filipina, they're from other Asian countries. So someone could come here and be a nurse. They will have to go through some of the UAE processes. Sometimes you have to take a licensing test. In other places, you may not. For example, I had a close friend who was in Singapore. She came from the UK to Singapore. She was a consulting nurse. So what that meant is that she was coming in to teach the nurses in that hospital in that country her skill set.
Wow. Yeah.
As a specialist nurse, because they had the specialty, but they needed someone to come in and help the other nurses bring their level up. So that's one way to do it. And so it's really figuring out what is your specialty, how do you fit in, where do you fit in. Here in the UAE, we have both. We have Cleveland Clinic here, so could you come into the Cleveland Clinic, which is a really big and work there because that works. Or in Singapore, my dentist was an American dentist. He had set up a dental practice. So could he have hired an American dental hygienist to come and work with him? So it's navigating some of the nuances about how you do that. Do you work for a US person? Do you work for a US company? Do you come into the national system to figure out where the gaps are to help? So it varies depending on the country and your profession.
Yeah. Totally agreed with you because everyone is going to come up with different sets of experiences, different purpose, and then you take every client where they want to move, what are the rules in that country, how. So I'm guessing, it depends on person to person. So for every client, your thing is going to be different, your process is going to be different to helping them out, figure out their way.
Yeah. So so things like purpose is usually, general. Things like geography, everyone comes with their list. I work with them to expand that list because, you have to think broader than maybe the two countries that you want to be in.
Yeah.
The job, updating your credentials and things of that nature, we work through those processes and what that looks like. The job search, yes, we have to take that on a country by country, think about different things. Things like in Asia and Southeast Asia, applications ask for you to put your pictures on them.
Yeah.
And that is, in the US, you're like, picture on my resume? That's a problem. And you're like, no, it's not, because if you don't have a picture, you don't get reviewed.
Yeah. Okay.
It's those kinds of things that people need to understand as they navigate the system.
That's very interesting. I've never thought about it but now you have shown me a different way. There are so many differences there, but being an expert, you can help someone figure out how to do it without them struggling. How should I do it? I'm in a process of doing it this way, but in this country, this place, you are supposed to learn new things and do it their way.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, exactly.
mm-hmm. Kalra, tell me, what do people often get wrong about the process?
Um, I think two things.
Mm-hmm.
One is geography, because I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with clients and they come to me with a fixed list of places. I want to go to these 4 countries.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if these 4 countries don't have opportunities for you? Are you still not going to do this process?
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to think.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, let me help you understand the process
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to geography. Sometimes you go to somewhere
Mm-hmm.
to start,
Mm-hmm.
and that place then gets you to the place you want to be. Because you may spend, you may spend a year or two in somewhere, oh, that's not my ideal country. But while you're in that space, you've already learned some things. Your ideal country has an opening, and you can then go to your ideal country. So I help people think about geography just a bit differently. That sometimes it's a starting place outside of your where you want to be ideally. The other piece that people don't often think of, you have to change your cover letter, your resume, and your LinkedIn to represent that you want to live abroad.
Okay.
And people often don't say, well, no, I have a great cover letter, or I have a great resume. When I, as someone who live in a different country, look at your resume, does it say that you're looking for a job in your home country, or does it say that you're looking for a job somewhere else outside?
Yeah.
What tells somebody that you want to come to their country? And sometimes it doesn't have to be specifically there, but what tells someone that you are willing to move? Have you translated the language? I use this example all the time when I talk to people. I said, if you want to go to Europe or the UK, in the US, it's called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
In the UK, it's called EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so if you put DEI on your resume, people may not know. But if you put DEI and you spell out what it means, people then see the exact words. They're just in a different order. So some of those small details I work with people on because it matters.
So you said geography is the biggest part of it, and then changing your cover letter, resume, LinkedIn, cater to that country. That is going to help them a lot.
Yeah, so cater to the country, and if you have a specific country, but cater to the fact that you want to be international. So you need to talk about being international. If you go and if you've been traveling and your LinkedIn does not represent that you've been traveling, nowhere on your LinkedIn it says that you have traveled outside of your country. Then why do you think somebody looking at your LinkedIn is going to think that you're going to move?
Yeah, that's a valid question.
Yeah, or you don't in your cover letter you don't say I'm willing to move to.
Yeah,
I'm open to move to. I'm excited to move to accept this job. You don't say any of that, but you expect them to give you an interview.
Yes, so true. Wow. So let's talk about challenges and growth. Helping others navigate change is one thing, but building a business comes with its own set of challenges. So tell me, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you started and growing your business?
Oh wow, time, because I still work a full-time job. I still work my full-time career.
Okay.
So trying to find the time and balance time against my full-time career to build my business. Now, in all honesty, I did take almost a year off from my career during the initial startup of the business to try to get some things in place. The challenge was learning technology. I learned how to build my own website. I learned to do a lot of things on my own. along the way, and the frustrations that come with that. And it's like, I don't understand this, or, trying to design a social media asset, or those kinds of things. Along the way, I think there are things that I feel that I'm good at, and I keep doing them. And there are things that's like, no, I need help with. So I will hire someone to help me with things. There are things that I enjoy learning. I think that comes from being in higher ed.
Yeah.
So that continual learning piece. And so I will push myself to learn things. Another challenge is visibility. So while you and I can sit here and have a great conversation, the getting on screen has taken me a long time to be physically visible in my business at times. You may catch a picture of me, but I was never, I still at times, shy away from, doing that independent reel or that independent recorded and putting it out there. So I think that's still a challenge for me, because I think we all have ongoing challenges. So I think that's the other piece. I think managing multiple services is a challenge at times. So trying to find, it's like, okay, am I focusing on higher ed this week? Am I focusing on the Career Expat? Am I focusing on rest, reset, and realign? And then when you have clients take priority. So I was like, okay, this is, and then it's like, okay, what am I doing around my client, working with my client or my client's projects? So I've really kind of learned not to beat myself up, if I should use that word, in the process. It's a learning process. It's a growing process. And we often, especially as women, I think sometimes we often are very demanding on ourselves. And so I've learned to manage that, and i.e. some of the intentional wellness and intentional living pieces that I have created has come out of some of that.
That's great. That's great. So you said, for you, the biggest challenges are time, visibility, and managing multiple services that you're offering.
Yeah.
Great. So were there moments when you doubted yourself?
Yes, I think the doubt creeps in when, you feel like you're doing everything and sometimes you're not getting the client, or you have a prospective client and you thought, okay, yeah, that is what the client should be working on. That's the direction they should be going. And they come back and say, no.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, really? You sure? And so you get to those places, or, in my case, I write a lot of thought leadership around living and working abroad. And I write a lot of thought leadership in higher education. And, you write a piece and you think, oh, this is a great piece. And, this should, resonate with people and your colleagues. And it doesn't. And you're like, did I miss the boat somewhere? So yeah, those things do happen. And yeah, there are times. And then during the pandemic, I was like, okay, well, clearly coaching and moving abroad's not happening right now. And so consulting's really not going to really happen either. So I'm like, what else do I need to do for my business? It's in a plateau. And so that's how the Etsy store got started. I was talking to someone and she's like, you should sell digital products. You create all these great things. And so I added a third component to the business in the middle of the pandemic. And I think many of us did this. Many of us started so many things during the pandemic. And so in my mind, I was like, I'm not giving up on this. It did okay. It's had its pieces. It has its ebbs and flows. And literally, I had an aha moment about 2 months ago, and looking at the Etsy store, and this is where Rest, Reset, and Realign really came out. I was like, wait a minute, there's been an ecosystem around these products. There has been, they fit into different spaces and what we do and how we need to live. And in my brain, I was like, how come I didn't see this like a year ago or 2 years ago? And literally it hit. And once it hit, it immediately exploded. I was able to just, oh, these products are rest products. These products are recess products. These products are realign products. And just went with it. And it's been completely, and so you get those moments where you're like, the light bulb goes off. And then there are moments you're like, why isn't this working? So yes.
Wow. Yeah, I remember many people starting new things during COVID, although it was not a great time, but looking back at that time, it gave you a more meaning, or gave us another set of things that you can do, like you started rest, reset, and realign. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Karla, tell me, what helped you keep going during those difficult moments? Was it mentors, beliefs, or something else?
It's really about the thing that I haven't really talked about, which is my own purpose.
Okay.
So I have this core purpose of who I am is to help others. I mean, a good part of it is about helping university students. And my favorite part is to see that student do well and eventually get to graduation, but it's just that moments of impact. And so that applies to institutions. It's to see an institution make that change. It's to see an institution institute a new project, a new program, a new initiative, and watch it continue and in a legacy of some kind. It's working with individuals that, yes, they made it abroad. Or I've worked with individuals where after going and working with me, they're like, I don't want to do this. and that's okay too.
Yeah.
And so it's validated both pieces. They're like, oh, I really want to do this. Okay, I know I have a pathway. And then they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. And it's okay. I may choose to do this 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but I'm not ready right now. So that's what keeps me going. It's the fact that this is something that I think people are exploring. I think it's needed. I've watched my own journey and I was like, okay, I know that somebody else is watching my journey and I can help them through. And so I think it's just core purpose. And, entrepreneurship is a cycle. You switch, you change, you grow, you retire things. This product didn't work, so I'm going to get rid of it. This product is, not doing well. I'm going to change that. This program needs to get shorter. This program needs to get longer. I've done all of that. So I think I'm going to go back to resilience. I think it's just me trying to be resilient within the business and being an entrepreneur and keeps me going.
So basically realigning your purpose according to, what's working well, what's not working, and being resilient. So, Karla, one of the most rewarding part of your business is seeing the impact it has on other people's life. So can you share a success story that has stayed with you? Have you helped someone, some student or some professional, and it changed their life, and that story stayed with you? Can you share that?
Excuse me. I think one recently was I worked with a young lady, and she was really a bit hesitant, and then she had a bit of uncertainty, and she's like, okay, I'm, gonna do this and figure this out. And we had our sessions, and then I do check-in. I do at least an annual check-in with as many as my past clients as possible. And so I sent her a message that says, hey, just doing a check-in, see how things are going. It's been this long. Book a 15-minute call with me. Let me see how you're doing. And we got on the call, and she's like, I just took a job in this country, and I'm in the middle of transition.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm excited. And she's like, it's been a journey. She's like, I'm going through major culture shock. And it was major culture shock. Like, she's like, I can't find any seasonings, and I can't do this, and I'm struggling to cook. And so literally we spent the conversation talking about, I said, okay, you're not going to find the seasonings that you're used to back home, but here's what you can do. And so I literally walked her through it, said, go to your local market. You're going to make your own. I said, go to the wet market, and you're going to get some scallion, some thyme, some rosemary, get all these fresh seasonings, put them in the blender with some olive oil or whatever oil. You're going to make yourself your own green seasoning. You're going to make yourself your own seasoning that tastes like home for you, because you're not going to get the seasonings like, you're used to in your own country. But you can make things that come close.
Yeah.
And she's like, I did not think of that. I said, this is the adaptation that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go and find that bottle of seasoning that you're used to. But if you know the ingredients in that seasoning, you can come up with something close.
Wow. What a great story.
And so it stood out to me because she was really in the point where she's like, I'm struggling with she's like, I don't want to eat the same thing and have no flavor. I was like, oh, we're gonna fix this for you. Let's just work this out. So that's just one. Actually, some of the stories that really resonate with me are really folks who said, I've worked with you, but I realize that moving abroad is not for me right now. That takes courage to say it's not for me right now. Or, you know what, I'm going to spend more time planning this process out over the next 5 years instead of trying to do it right now. Those stories also stick with me because what it said to me is that what I helped you do was think through what you needed to do so you know that you can do this better and you can make this work when you're ready to make it work.
Yep. That's the bigger part, sometimes you think you are ready, but if someone realizes talking to you, maybe I need a year more or 2 years more before I take that big leap and move to another country. So, I hope they learn that, I really need to think through, and maybe this is not the best time. Maybe I need some time to reset, rethink, and then take a leap.
Yeah. I think one of the pieces that in talking to many of my clients that I don't think they realize how much family impacts their decision.
Yes.
And we've had to talk through that. I said, who's supporting your decision to move abroad? And they had to, that gets them thinking. Or I ask tough questions like, okay, you're abroad now and somebody in your family is significantly ill. You cannot get on a plane and fly back. What happens? You have to think through some of those things before you decide and how you navigate them. Or who's opposing your move? How can you win them over? And or do you need to win them over?
That's right.
So some of that I think is also part of the process that I think folks, when they start to think some of the what I call the harder unspoken questions, because I think myself included, I'm not immune from this. We post what a life abroad is in the cute pictures of
Yes.
going out and doing things.
Yeah.
Several of us, I know in my circle, we write the hard stories, we share the hard videos online about this happened or how this happened, or we share stories about how, of others. But sometimes the reality hits home when you're having those tough conversations, or you're seeing someone's challenging story of someone who got sick abroad and what that meant, or someone who couldn't go home for a funeral, or someone who missed their sister's wedding, or someone who did something that ended up being challenged in the country that they're in, the legal system, or the laws change while you're there. And so you have to think about some of those things, and what are your contingency plans? And, yes, I may make it seem easy that I've moved from one country to another country to another country, but it's not. There are challenges behind that. And you have to navigate some of that. Some of that maybe, do you move back home before you move out again? Are you able to move from country to country? Yes, I've been able to navigate that, but that's not everyone's story.
So you said, answering some unspoken difficult questions. So you made them realize, there are not just one aspect. You have to live a life. So there are so many things you have to think about when you are taking a big decision.
Yeah,
That's great. That's
exactly.
Great. So let's shift gears again and talk about inspiration and advice. So, what advice would you give someone who dreams of living and working abroad and doesn't know where to start?
Start with your purpose. Start with, why are you going abroad? Is this, and I'm talking not just, I want to go live in Singapore. I want to go live in Hungary. I want to go live in Japan. Start with why. Is it financial? Is it career development? Is it new experiences? Is it family related? I want to go live in Ireland because my family is originally from Ireland, so I want to see what that looked like. What is the core purpose behind you going abroad? And make sure that you document that, because when times get difficult, that's what you're going to have to come back to. When things like happen, like when there's a storm, when something's just not going right in your abroad journey, you're going to have to come back to, why are you there? Why are you abroad? Why are you in this country? And so make sure that you have that really settled in. The other advice is around my second principle, geography. Be open. Now, I understand that every country is not for everyone. But if you only have 2 countries, you may be waiting a very long time to move abroad. You need to expand your geography that to within reason. And I'm going to give myself an example. I only like living in warm countries.
Okay.
Now, would I live in a cold country if for the right opportunity for a short period of time so I can get back to a warm country? Sure. But I know what my preference is, and I know where that puts me geographically around the world. So again, think about your geography. I already touched on, you have to update your portfolio so that it speaks to the places that you want to go, the region you want to go in. The last one I'm going to hit on is culture shock. You are going to experience it. It's not if, it's not and, it's not, it's when.
Yeah.
And it's for how long. And so be prepared for those transitions. And sometimes culture shock is, I'm used to eating Doritos, a particular snack. And you go to another country and you buy Doritos, you're like, I see Doritos, I'm going to get some. You open the bag and you have the memory of Doritos, the taste of Doritos. You know how they're, and they don't taste the same as the what you're used to.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's wrong with these Doritos? No. The flour's different. The processing's different. The water's different.
That's right.
There are a lot of things different, although they may use the same recipe.
Wow.
It's like I tell all the people all the time, I said, I love coconut water. Fresh coconut water is my favorite. However, when I get a coconut in Thailand, it's different from the coconut in Malaysia. It's different from the coconut I grew up in Jamaica. It's different from the coconut I get in Sri Lanka. Same coconut plant.
Yeah. Different taste.
But the water, the coconut, it doesn't taste the same.
Yeah.
Because it's grown in different soil, slightly different climate. That's the way you need to think about culture shock. Things are different. You may be celebrating Christmas in Australia, but it's in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Because that's when December is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because December is in summer.
Yes. Yes.
And you're not getting any snow. If you're from a cold climate and you're used to snow. So some of those adaptations and those culture shock things are really important. And I think that people often overlook them.
What a great advice coming from you. You talked about firstly and most importantly, why. Why do you want to live somewhere? And what is your purpose? So that, I think that's a biggest question that, if someone is able to answer that, why, they can, come up with a great idea what to do and how to do it. And then you said geography, expanding your geography. Maybe between two countries, maybe, if you want to take a detour and first go to somewhere else and then go to place where you want to live in. And third one, you said updating your portfolio according to the place where you want to live in. What is expected from that place. And lastly, and also very important one, cultural shock. When will you get it and how long it will last for you? What a great advice. Wow. So, Karla, before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. So, how do you personally define success today? And has the definition changed over time?
Oh, I think because, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm in higher education. And so success is really, it's a self-definition for me. Years ago, I had to let go of, perfectionist tendencies and learn when things are good enough. And realize that someone else's definition of your success is not yours. I define success for me. Now, are there societal pressures? Yes. Are there societal norms? Yes. But success for me is, did I accomplish that to the best of my ability? Did I contribute to the positive impact? Am I leaving a legacy? And a lot of this stems in the higher education, the institutions I've worked in or worked at. But, the same thing applies in consulting. Am I leaving an impact? Am I leaving a legacy? Am I leaving something that's sustainable with my client, with individuals? Again, am I helping you to create the impact in your life so that you can create a sustainable career internationally if you choose? And then lastly is, we all have to take care of ourselves. And I think that was one of the success lessons that I had to learn is if I don't take care of me, physically, mentally, emotionally, physical, spiritually, there is no me to give.
Yeah.
There's no me to share. There's no me to help others. And so I think part of that came out of the intentionality and the intentional living and the rest, reset, and realign space that you find is those pieces. I love the beach and I love spas. And so those things help reset me. Those things help me find rest. Those things help me figure out, okay, I need to realign. And so I define success by really figuring out, am I impacting? First of all, am I in my purpose? Whatever am I doing? Am I in my purpose? Whether it's work or business. And then I come to, am I creating impact, a positive impact for an organization, an institution, an individual? And those are and then am I leaving a legacy? And so that's truly how I define success. So it's purpose, impact, and legacy. In the areas of business, in the areas of work and career. I guess in my personal life too, but I don't really talk about that much.
No, that's so wonderful, and how beautifully you have defined success. And one thing that is going to stay with me is you said taking care of me, because if I don't take care of me, my physical and mental health, there is no me. Wow, how wonderfully you have said, you have to focus on ourselves so that we can be impactful for people we are helping, like your clients, leaving a legacy. So if you are aligned with yourself, you can help so many people with their purpose.
Yes.
Find them clarity. Wow.
Very true. Yes. Agreed.
Well, Karla, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. I love how you have taken your experiences living and working around the world and turning them into a business that helps others create new opportunities for themselves. And your story is a wonderful reminder that growth often begins with curiosity, courage, and willingness to explore what's possible. Thank you for inspiring us today.
And thank you, Didi. It was a pleasure.
Same here. And thank you everyone for listening to Founders Treasure. If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye.